The stage is set for the fourth Redemple Temple duel of the season. Or is it? Find out now on Big Brother Cheesecake 5 All-Stars. Hello, I'm Andrew Chef Moonves. Welcome to Big Brother Cheesecake 5 All-Stars. It's day 38 inside the Big Brother Cheesecake house, and this week, Joanne is the new head of household. Who will she nominate for eviction? We'll find out tomorrow. But first, Chantel and Dylan were supposed to duel in their Redemple Temple duel last night, and the results were supposed to be right now, as they usually are on Thursdays. However, Chantel could not do it last night. I asked Dylan if he could do it in the morning, this morning, so that it could make the episode. He said he's too busy sleeping. So, luckily they are both free tonight, which means the Redemple Temple duel will be in tomorrow's episode. So tomorrow will be a busy day with Redemple Temple and with Joanne's nominations and the veto lottery. That leaves us with some time today. And so what I did was I watched the fourth episode. Fifth episode of Reality Realness with Nick, Lindsay, and the most recently evicted house guest Chantel, and I will be discussing my thoughts today. Luckily, I have a lot of thoughts since I have time. By far, the longest Reality Realness notes I've ever made, because they had a lot to talk about and it was good. So I'm going to get to that shortly. One thing I wanted to say, so I'm supposed to do my Reality Realness thoughts on Saturday, which is what I normally do. However, that's okay because Saturday I have a special guest co-host. Actually, one guest co-host, and I'm waiting on one other person to potentially join us for a 3-person panel on Saturday to discuss, because we're approaching the halfway point, so this is when I like to discuss with some people what their thoughts are of this season. So that will be on Saturday's episode. And Tiffany has confirmed that she will be here in about 2 weeks' time, because it isn't Big Brother Cheesecake without torturing Jonathan. And Rhonda, who commented that she didn't like the fact that Tiffany keeps scratching herself. And I said that there was a time when Tiffany canceled a cruise on me at the last minute, so I had to go with my mother, which is fine, but it's not the same as going with Tiffany because that is an experience. And so what I did was, as an act of revenge, I always, because I'm a pasty white boy, when I tan, I usually get sunburnt. So what I did was I peeled off all the dead skin peel from my burn, and I put it all in a Ziploc bag, and I gave that to Tiffany as a souvenir. And she goes, "Oh, you got me," she thought it was, "you got me sand from the beach." Like, no, that's my dead skin peel. And she's like, "Ah!" And she like throws it up in the air. It was hilarious. But anyway, so Tiffany will be here in a couple of weeks. Okay, so let's get to the Reality Realness recap with 3 S's. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and ring the bell. There, I did it. Also, buy Lynn's crap on whatever her website is. www.haggis.org. I don't know. Remember, you have to support her pyramid scheme. It's very important. Okay. And I would ask Lynn to be here, but on Saturday, but nobody would understand a word she says. So, and I would ask Emad too, but he would just be eating Swiss chalet the whole time. But Emad, if you're watching and you ever want to come on, just let me know. Okay. So this episode of Reality Realness was excellent in that I made a note of it. Chantel, she was not afraid to spill the beans, but what I liked about Chantel, unlike previous guests this season and even in season 4, she sort of gave the big picture so that it almost painted sort of where everybody was and where the future of the season was going and where we were headed. The only other person who kind of did that was Rai Rai when he was on last season. Oh, and speaking of which, you have the cover photo in the background, like my cover photo on Facebook, and Rai Rai is in the bottom right, and I don't know why, but it's just my eyes constantly go to that because of course him not appearing on Reality Realness. So I'm like, how funny is it that he's still on Reality Realness in the cover photo that's in the background? But yeah, so everybody sort of talks about the past. Like Dylan was great, but Dylan really, really focused on what happened in the game up until that point, but not in the future. Whereas Chantal was sort of lining up the future as to where the direction of the season was going, which is tough because this season, with it being All Stars, every week has been very different. Like, very different. Week 1, the big target, Jeffrey, was voted off. Week 2 was kind of the easy week where Charlene was voted off unanimously. Week 3 was, of course, Ryan's explosion. Week 4 was the Dylan-Jonathan feud. And Week 5 was Kat sort of getting redemption from her last season. So every week has kind of been different, which I think has made this season very interesting, that it has not followed a sort of formulaic, straight line. It's been a very bendy, curvy road, which I've been enjoying. And even, there was one group chat, one of the 4 seasons, so either season 1, 2, 3, or 4, I can't reveal who, they sort of had a heart-to-heart and were like, how did we get to this point? Like, where did we go wrong? Like, are we really in this position? Obviously it wasn't season 2 because Joanna's in power, but it was either one of season 1, 3, or 4 was just sort of, how did we get here? And I get it. Like, it's really, if you told me these were the first 5 evictees, Jeffrey, I might have believed, given that he was the first winner and he won so many comps, but I don't know if I would have put Chantal, well, Ryan maybe. Who were the others? Charlene, I thought, would slip through the cracks, and she was doing that the first week until the vaccine thing happened. And even Dylan, I didn't expect to go as early as he did. I thought there was a chance of that, but I thought because Dylan was very good at comps in season 2, I thought he'd win his way through. And he could have won Scrabble if he didn't screw up in that first round. Okay, obviously I'm way off track. Chantal said that she was not blindsided by Kat. And that she was BSing me in her DR. When she said that Kat and I are Aquariuses and I think we're going to work together, I did think, ugh, she's way off her thinking there, but now it all kind of makes sense. But Kat did say that Chantal was sort of asking her repeatedly, am I going up? Am I going up? So clearly Chantal knew there was a good chance, and she even said that after the virus competition, she didn't feel safe. So yeah, so she was not blindsided by Kat. And I kind of got that one wrong. But, oh well. Also, Chantal sort of mentioned how season 2 were sort of the wild cards. And she didn't use that specific term, but even though they're the only season where all 4, well, Dylan is on Redemple Temple, but all 4 are still active, that season was all the information is out in the open, which is why I love that season so much. Everybody just said what they felt and shot each other in public. All the stabbing, with the exception of maybe Joanne, all the stabbing was in the front, not in the back. And so it's interesting how Chantal said it was difficult to connect with people from season 2 and sort of play with them and make deals and alliances because they were so wishy-washy and all over the place. And that's how season 2 plays. So Ryan, I said Ryan is still in the episode. So Nick said this, so you can't blame me, Eitan, because Eitan did get a little upset that in the veto competition I did say, unless you're throwing this competition like Eitan does. Because it is now very public knowledge that in Big Brother Virus, Eitan did not want to win. Everybody's talked about it now, and Chantal said it in the episode that Eitan didn't want to win, and so it's out in the open now. And Nick said this, and I thought the same thing. Nick has played with Eitan twice before, and Eitan is not the type to not want to win. And even in season 1, he only threw one competition that I knew of. And so it is a surprise. And, it's an interesting, decent strategy. And I know Dan Giesling did this a lot, to throw competitions when you're in a good position if nobody knows you're doing it. But everybody knows you're doing it, and I was not the I was not the first person, Aton, that said it. So, it's everybody knows it now, and it's sort of like, is it going to help you or hurt you? Luckily, it's only day 38, so you could still turn it around and win a lot if you want to, so that if you make it to the final two, people can say, well, you just threw every comp. But yeah, it is interesting to see somebody in All Stars, not wanting to win, and Aton really didn't want that virus win. Yeah, so Ryan and the Ruby. So, assuming everything Chantal said was true, and it all makes sense and is logical. Ryan, if you're watching, please explain to me why you wanted to flush the Ruby in the first place. Like why? And also, that was week 3, and Chantal said that you had said, Ryan, that you wanted to flush the Ruby before she even won Head of Household. You won the Ruby week 2. So, what, 48 hours after you win the Ruby veto, you want to flush it? Why didn't you just throw the comp then to anybody? Like that week, Charlene was going for sure. Charlene wasn't even playing in that veto competition because of some medical procedure. So it was obvious Charlene was going to be evicted unanimously. Just let somebody else win the Ruby. I don't know. I thought it was weird that you wanted to win that you were playing hard for Tetris. You wanted to win that competition, and you did. And then 48 hours later, you want to get rid of that Ruby. So I don't know. That was weird to me. And JoJo in season 3 kept the Emerald till week 9. Brenda in season 4 kept the Ruby till week 8 when she was evicted. So clearly it's not like, I mean, yeah, you had 2. So you had the Amethyst as well. I'll give you that. But having a special veto doesn't necessarily mean you're the biggest threat and the biggest target. Maybe in your case because you're Rai Rai. But if a background person won a special veto, I don't think it would matter that much. But anyway. Chantal's DR, I talked about how she lied to me in it. Why I didn't say the Bay, that I shopped or that I looked for these items at the Bay. First of all, when the whole Christmas season comes around, prices everywhere go up and down and all over the place. But also, I didn't specify that it was at the Bay until I was asked, because I thought Brazil was playing and Nicole was not playing, but Nicole could have. So with Brazil and Nicole in, they don't know what the Bay is. Nicole would have been like, what is this Bay? Is this a place where patriots go? The fake patriots that pillage our Capitol building, destroy our democracy, and are a threat to our freedom? Is this the Bay? And why is it that all Canadians shop at the Bay? Is there nowhere else to shop? Is that where you all meet to buy your clothes? These are the things we need to know. So that's why I didn't say that it was from the Bay. Chantal did not mention the tie. What tie? Oh, so Chantal had 3 advantages. She had that she could pick the order, which I do think it was advantageous to put herself last, which was the right decision, because then you know what you need to beat to win. What was the first advantage? Oh, an extra punch. And in the event of a tie, Chantal would have won if she was in the tie. That is a huge advantage when there are only 6 different denominations of dollar amounts, and I was expecting a tie. If Brazil didn't get the 500 plus a second chance first, I guess then JoJo would have won. But let's say Brazil got 1,000, JoJo had 1,000, that would have been a tie. So I still think that was being able to win automatically in a tie is a decent advantage. But anyway, and I get the whole luck-based competition thing. It wasn't 100% luck. You had the 4 items, which I was expecting at least one person to pull a Brazil. Pull a Brazil and sort of, what's the word in Price is Right when you fail miserably? Oh shit! There's a game show term when you bomb out. We'll say bomb out, but it's not that, and it's not going to come to me, so I don't want to sit here for 5 minutes and think. Well, flunk out. Bomb out. I can't remember. We'll say flunk out. I was expecting one person to flunk out and get 0, and I'm not going to lie, I was expecting it to be Kat. So I was expecting one person to just not even be in the second round. And then I thought somebody would get 4 out of 4. And if Chantal got 4 out of 4, she would have had 5. So I expected more of a range than just 2 and 3, which I think everybody had 2 or 3, which would have drastically altered the odds. And then, of course, Chantal's advantage. Kat had the minor advantage of an extra punch. So there was strategy too, because when Brazil had 1,500, that was a critical part of the competition. I found out afterwards that she would have picked 10,000 after that, but let's say Brazil would have picked a 50. By having 1,500, Brazil had to make a judgment call based on how many slots, how many dollar amounts were left, how many people were coming after her, whether 1,500 was a good enough amount to stay on. And I think mathematically, even though she had 10,000 coming up next, if she had gone on, mathematically, I think she made the right decision, clearly, because she won. But that's where there was a little bit of strategy. I get what you're saying, Chantal. You didn't have to fight. Nobody had to fight to the death in this. But also, unlike Big Brother Canada and US, where they sort of stagger the luck and the skill comps, I like getting the luck and the sort of fair games, or what's amusement park games, or the carnival games. That's what I'm thinking of. Out of the way earlier and have the more skill-based stuff towards the end of the season. So there were pros and cons to this, and I still think it was a fun competition. Nobody said it wasn't fun. Or did she? No, Chantal said she didn't have as much fun this season. You can and you will have fun, young lady. But no, I get it. All-Stars in any platform is difficult. I mean, there's serious PTSD for one of the house guests when you just say All-Stars. And I'm sure that the game for everybody was much more elevated this time and is much more... It's difficult. The pre-gaming mostly being Rai. I believe this. I believe Ryan started the Season 3-4 alliance, and I believe Chantal when she says she wasn't pre-gaming hard and that Dylan exaggerated the Reality Realness alliance. And Brazil then threw some shade in with a comment that something along the lines of, Ryan pre-gamed as if his life depended on it, and sometimes you can make lethal lemonade out of lemons. Which, true. Yeah, she said that reality... I like the analogy that Reality Realness was seen as this boogeyman. Which, yeah, I get it. Redemple Temple, Chantal versus Dylan. She's confident that she can beat Dylan. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything there. Well, you know what? I will. I'm getting the sense from Dylan... Should I? I could be wrong. And Dylan, if I'm wrong, correct me. I don't think Dylan is watching the episodes anymore. I don't think Dylan is studying at all. And I think Chantal is right when she says she can beat Dylan. And if I were to bet, I would bet on Chantal. I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm saying that's who I would bet on. Then Chantal says, depending on who goes this week coming up, that could be difficult. But it could go either way. And Chantal... It's 1 in 4 chance. Like, you can do this. Chantal, she did say, I'm so glad she said this because I thought this, and if you didn't say it, Chantal, I would have forgotten. She said, I wish I had campaigned or worked to have Jeffrey stay because we would have worked well together. I also wish, that Jeffrey won that first veto and that he stayed because I think Jeffrey and Chantal played very similar games. Chanel and Brazil won't like it when I say this, but when I rank the 4 winners, Jeffrey is first, Chantal is second. It's just, they both played a very Dr. Will type game where they were basically running the whole show. Jeffrey had to fight for competitions more. Chantal didn't have to rely on it, and that was also my other note, that Chantal only won 1 competition, and she didn't even need to win that. I almost wish she didn't win that so that she would be a 0 competition winner. Because that's a huge accomplishment. It shows how good her social and strategic game is, as everybody has said. And, yeah, I think she and Jeffrey would have... They're both level-headed. They're both honest, with their allies at least. And it's kind of like... She compared herself to Janelle. And Jeffrey, in a lot of ways, is like Danielle Reyes. And both Janelle and Danielle Reyes, after All-Stars... said, what a shame it was that we didn't work together. I think they actually said it in the house before Danielle was evicted. They were by the pool. Danny said to Janelle, what a shame it was that we didn't work together because we would have been a force to be reckoned with. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, I don't know if Chantal could have flipped that vote against Dylan, which would have been a big help. But if she could have, that would have been a game changer. And I am going to try and get Jeffrey to play more orgs, and maybe, if depending on Aton, get him in Backyard Big Brother, because I think Jeffrey has a lot to offer. And now this whole baked Jeffrey that we saw in Reality Realness is also very interesting. Yeah. I think that's everything. Social stranger. Last but not least, Chantal said that she did not believe she would have stayed over anyone else. This one I will fight you to the death on, Chantal. I think you would have stayed against anybody else. Brazil even said it herself when she was nominated. She said, I have to win the veto or have to have one of us come off the block because I'm not going to beat Chantal in an eviction vote. And I agree with her, and I agree that anybody else, Kat, Kurt, I did this yesterday, but Kat, Curtis, Aton, Chad, Chanel, Chanel, I didn't think of Chanel. That one would have been close, but I still think Chantal... Let me count. Okay, I'm not going to count up votes. That one would have been close, but everybody else, I think Chantal would have stayed. Like, that's just my opinion. And it's not just an opinion, it's based on what people have been saying in their DRs, especially when Brazil won the veto and Nicole was the replacement. A lot of people were like, fuck, now I have to vote Chantal out. So... but anyway, so that's my thoughts on Reality Realness. A great episode. Loved it. Yeah, fantastic. So, with that said, who will win the Redemple Temple duel and stay, Chantal or Dylan? And they will be 1 week away from re-entering the game. And who will Joanne nominate for eviction? And we'll pick players for the Golden Power Veto competition. That is all tomorrow. Saturday, a special guest co-host or two will join me to dish the dirt, and we will have the rules for the Golden Power Veto competition. Sunday is the Golden Power Veto results, Monday is the Golden Power Veto ceremony, and Tuesday is the next live eviction, where another house guest will be evicted from the Big Brother Cheesecake 5 house, and we'll head to Redemple Temple, where they will duel against either Chantal or Dylan, where the winner will return to the game and spin the veto wheel for either, or have the option of spinning the veto wheel for either a Pooh Brown Power Veto or a Fast Forward. I'm Andrew Shevsik Moonves. Take care, and remember, it's not about who reaches the summit the fastest, but who learns the most about themselves along the way.